Hello and welcome to my review of the Adeptus Mechanicus Ironstrider Ballistarius, or Ballistari. This model will set you back £32.50. It's a dual unit kit in that you can either make this Ironstrider or a Sydonian Dragoon. The difference is that the Ironstrider typically has either the twin Cognis las cannon or a twin Cognis autocannon. The Sydonian Dragoon is typically armed with a taser lance, but you do have an option there of equipping it with a radium jezail, which just sounds awesome more than anything. Anyway, now the reason why I've chosen to build the model as an Ironstrider, because I feel that as a separate individual unit it can hold its own, and by that I mean it can scurry around the battlefield, pop in tanks, pop in heavily armoured units, and it's not going to get into too much difficulty other than getting kind of returning fire. Whereas a Sydonian Dragoon, to really get the best out of it, you've got to get up close and personal, and I don't think one unit of a Dragoon is adequate or efficient. I think it's best off in a group of 2 or maybe even 3. I will purchase a Sydonian Dragoon at some point in the future, but at the moment I'm happy with this Ironstrider, and that's what I will be reviewing today. The model itself then, well, like all Adeptus Mechanicus units, there were a fair amount of mould lines. You come to accept this with such thin, spindly, kind of fragile models. Maybe not as fragile as some of the Necrons are turning out to be, but still. Lovely model to build, nice and fun. It has more parts than I expected it to. It took me longer than I also expected it to take as well. You can have it in this pose. You can't change the legs if you go for the Dragoon. The Dragoon has the legs differently. I think it's more kind of upright. There's a fair amount of detail on the model. If we just look at the back of the box, yeah, as you can see, the Dragoon has a more upright stance, which makes the model taller, and actually even more so with the taser lance. You don't have to have the pilot, I guess. As a ranger, you can change the head at least. You can have the pilot / gunner, operator, whatever you want to call it, not have his hood on and just have him sort of without the hood. And you can also go for like a Vanguard type looking helmet, which is specifically for the Dragoon. And there's the taser lance, and then there's the radium jezail. I just don't get walkers with snipers on the top. I just that doesn't just fit well with me. It's a bit odd. I'd much rather have them, you know, with a like main weapon, or specifically with the taser lance. But yeah, I will get a Dragoon at some point and get you an unboxing and review of that unit too. So yes, back onto the model and its detail. Little interlude there. You've got this kind of remote servitor thing that I guess helps with the targeting. I guess it sort of hasn't got. Well, he's got legs, but he hasn't got feet, and again, he hasn't really got hands. His arms sort of stop short in these things, and then these like pincer things become the arms. It kind of reminds me of a T-Rex in a way, but also an ostrich. Like if you look at the zoomorphism, these long legs. Yeah, and he's got 2 exhausts there, a little power plant, I guess. These cables, for some reason, just protrude out of there. He's got some kind of transmitter, communication array, and then he's just sat on there. He really hasn't got any protection for his legs, or almost his hips. You could fire a few shots in there if he doesn't pick you off first, but his body and his head is well armoured and well protected. So yeah, I guess the core of him is protected at least. And the legs do have a couple of armour plates there. You've got one on the thigh and another one there, and then a couple of armour plates protecting that joint at the back. But yeah, from the side it's going to be quite vulnerable, I guess. It's also got these appendages. I guess these deter against close combat assault, but there we go. Nice looking model. It was bigger than I expected it to be. The spare parts though, let's have a look at these. So you've got everything here. Here are the autocannons. I mean, it looks cool with the autocannons. I'll probably say it might even look cooler with the autocannons because they are longer and makes it look like more of a weapons platform. I may well use the autocannons in the next version of this that I get. But yeah, look at that. Looks pretty awesome with them. You've also got this long holster for the Radium Jezzail if you didn't want to have it equipped with that, or if you just wanted to have it equipped with a taser lance and then have this dangling by the side, and then you know that frees you up to take that option if you wanted to go down that route, but still have the aesthetics of this taser lance, which does look pretty cool. It looks like one of those taser goads or whatever, but just yeah, much longer. Can he reach though with it? I mean, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it works. He could just about reach the head and fry, you know, fry some brains. Then this is the Radium Jezzail. Just a longer galvanic rifle, really. Then you've got the Phosphor Serpenta, which is like a pistol thing. You've got this Kraut type helmet thing going on, and then you've got this one, which is the non-hooded Ranger. I've got another hooded, couple of other heads as well, but I'm kind of thinking that these were maybe the heads from the Scorpius I reviewed. I'm not sure about that. And then yeah, you've got the different, I say, handlebars. You've got these different legs which will go on there if you choose the Dragoon. You've got a little console again for the Dragoon. You've got a little light thing and different bearings for the joints, for the hip joints. So there you go, they're all your spare parts. I'm not sure how useful they can be. I mean, maybe you could use the taser lance with a normal Skitarii. It's going to look a bit odd, and maybe you could put one of these on a tank or as part of scenery. So yeah, that's just how useful that is. Okay, let's go through some size comparisons then. The first comparison I'd like to make is with the Scorpius Disintegrator. That's the noise I pretend it makes it. This is how it measures up to this. Now, bearing in mind that the Scorpius is £12.50 more expensive, you do get more parts, and like the Ballistari, is also a dual unit kit, but it just gives you an idea of how big the Ballistari is. It's not a small unit by any means. It's sort of a small, medium-sized unit. I think it's bigger than a Sentinel though, and definitely taller than a Dreadnought. I'll do a little size comparison in a moment with a Dreadnought actually. You've already seen it compared to a normal Skitarii Ranger. It does dwarf them. It stands atop the battlefield, so if you had a few of them, they are going to draw attention. That's it next to an Engine Seer, a Destroyer, a Sulphur Hound, and a Tech Priest. So it's definitely one of the tallest units in the Skitarii arsenal, if not the tallest, not including Mechanicus Knights. And speaking of which, I do have an Imperial Knight, which is a valid option for your Adeptus Mechanicus army, just as a knight, and that's where it sort of stands up to one of those. It doesn't quite reach the head of a knight, but I thought it'd be interesting to make that comparison. You could have the knights moving forward along with the Ballistari flanking, and they really are a flanking unit in your army. And it's nice that they're now joined with other fast attack choices, such as the Sulphur Hounds. You can imagine the Ironstriders going one way, or the Sydonian Dragoons going one way, and then the Sulphur Hounds or Cerberus Raiders going the other, and just doing a pincer movement around an enemy, and maybe even using the Taraxi to swoop down and deep strike an army in its core. So you could split the army into two directions, and then the Taraxi can come into the middle and rip it apart from the inside, as the army itself has been divided. Final size comparisons I would like to make is just with Some Imperial models. Well, firstly, I want to make a comparison with the Invictus Primaris Warsuit, which it is, I say it is taller. It is taller, and this is the largest dreadnought that they do, other than the Telemon, of course. But yeah, it does stand, it just gives you an idea of just how tall it is. It's going to be taller than a Primaris. And then if I just show you some other Imperial models, so I've got a Legacy Space Marine on the left, Sly Marbo in the middle, and a Primaris on the right. So it's going to dwarf all the Primaris if you're against Primaris, if you've got like a dark Adeptus Mechanicus, a dark Imperium army. And yeah, it does stride the battle field, hence the word Strider. So in summary, it is going to stand out amongst all of your other Adeptus Mechanicus units, other than the Knights, which are massive anyway, and it's going to be taller than a lot of other factions units. Okay, so you've reached my part of the review where I will go through all of the rules for the Ironstrider Ballistarius. It is a fast attack choice. It's a power points cost of a 4 and a match play points cost of 50, which is a little bit cheaper than the Dragoon. However, you are going to have to pay for either the twin Cognis autocannon, which will set you back another 25 points, or the twin Cognis lascannon, which will set you back a whopping 45 points. So you're basically spending almost as much on the twin lascannon as the unit itself. So just bear that in mind. You're pretty much doubling the cost of the unit with those lascannons. It's a movement speed of 10 inches, weapon skill and ballistic skill are both 3+, strength 5, toughness 6, 6 wounds, 2 attacks, leadership 8, and a save of 4+. It's got the same stat line as the Sydonian Dragoon, except the Dragoon has 3 attacks instead of the 2. The unit contains 1 Ironstrider Ballistarius. It can include up to 5 Ironstrider Ballistari, power rating of +4 per model. Each model is equipped with a twin Cognis autocannon and broad spectrum data tether. Now, you've probably heard of these Cognis weapons throughout all of Adeptus Mechanicus. They're pretty good. But the twin Cognis autocannon, it's a range 48 inch, heavy 4, strength 7, AP -1 and a damage of 2. You may fire this weapon even if the firing model advanced, but you must subtract 2 from any hit rolls if you do so. So that works just like all the other Cognis weapons, and that's the same for the twin Cognis lascannon. But that weapon is a range 48 inch, heavy 2, strength 9, AP -3 and a damage of D6. So it really depends whether you want more shots at a lower strength, a lower AP and less damage, or whether you want half the number of shots but at a higher strength, a higher AP and more damage. Depends on what you're up against, really. If you're up against hordes, well, I'd go for Dune Riders or Disintegrators with Belarus energy cannons, but still, if you were going up against other Adeptus Mechanicus armies or Tyranids or Orcs or squishy armies, then the autocannon is the way to go. With a 3+, the majority of the time you're going to hit those with those 4 shots. But I've equipped mine with the Cognis lascannon just because I want that long range, high strength firepower that I feel the Adeptus army is lacking a little bit. War gear options: any model may replace its twin Cognis autocannon with a twin Cognis lascannon. Abilities: Canticles of the Omnissiah. Bionics: all models in this unit have a 6+ invulnerable save, so that's nice. It's got a save of 4+ and then a 6+ invulnerable. The broad spectrum data tether. Forgeable units within 3 inches of any friendly models equipped with a broad spectrum data tether at the start of the morale phase add 1 to their leadership for the duration of the phase. It works just the same as the one on the Scorpius. However, I do question the usefulness of that ability because it's a fast vehicle, it's moving 10 inches. Are there going to be other units that are going to be close to it that can take advantage of it? Yes, maybe if you've got the Taraxi nearby or the Sulphur Hounds, but still it's better if you use them to the full potential and flank either side of your enemy. So I can't see that being that useful. Explodes. If a model in this unit is reduced to 0 wounds, roll a d6 before removing the model from the battlefield. On a 6 it explodes and each unit within 3 inches suffers 1 mortal wound. The keywords: Imperium, Adeptus Mechanicus, Scutari, Vehicle, Ironstrider Ballistari. Now, I feel it is lacking. It's pretty much what it looks like. Doesn't have any special abilities other than that 6+ invulnerable. I'm really not sure why it doesn't have the incense cloud that the Sydonian Dragoons have. It's pretty much the same vehicle, same chassis. Not much has changed. They should have incorporated the incense cloud with the Ballistari and not just have it sit with the Sydonian. I get that the Dragoons are more of a close combat focused unit, and you have to get them in melee range, so that does help with their survivability. But I really wish that the Ballistari had that incense cloud too. So that's where they're lacking. You're pretty much paying almost 100 points there for a fast weapons platform that can advance and still fire its weapons. It's quite expensive for what you're getting, although it does have that toughness 6 and it does have 6 wounds, so it's a bit more survivable in that regard. There are just other things in the army that can output higher damage and a better value for your points. But it's a nice unit to just whip about the battlefield, popping tanks and heavily armoured units. Again, with the Sydonian Dragoons, I'd pick a minimum of 2 of them, because then you've got 12 wounds, and they are pretty decent in close combat because of their strength 8 taser lances and their ability to get 3 hits with each hit roll of a 6. Let's just say for argument's sake you did get 6 6s. You're going to have 18 strength 8 attacks there, damage 2, which is quite horrific. But that's a very small chance of you, but realistically that's an extremely small chance you're going to get that. So there you go, that's the end of my review. What do you guys think of the Ballistari? Do you never leave home without them? Do you use them to harass enemy units from afar? I mean, technically they've got an effective range there of almost 60 inches, 58 inches. Or do you prefer to have a unit of 3 Dragoons and flank your enemy and rush them and try and take them out in combat? Please do put your thoughts and opinions down below as always. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Omnissiah protects.